Welcome, everybody, to the third of three sessions of Trophy Gold, the Chasm of Screams. Unfortunately, last session's video got broken up and corrupted, so there is no record of that, unfortunately. But today we have our two adventurers. Kyle will not be joining us, who are now deep within the mountain, Mount Fallor, and are exploring the Chasm of Screams. Unfortunately, we had a death last week, so John will be playing as a new character. John, why don't you introduce yourself and introduce us to Becca?
Yeah, so I'm John, he, him, and my new character will be Benna,
Ben.
she, her. So Benna is an expelled apprentice from a. She trained as a sellsword underneath a master of fighting and tactics and such, but was expelled because she didn't know how to play the political game well enough. So since then, she's kind of been beaten around, making her own way. Picture a very strong black woman, like a Serena Williams, type build, athletic and well composed and very confident in herself. And so, yeah, she is a sellsword. She wears a leather jerkin, carries a shield and sword. On her back, she has a winter wolf pelt that you can make a guess she skinned with her own knife at her side. And maybe we'll find out how she ended up in this cavern.
All right, and Josh, do you want to introduce yourself and Osto?
Yeah, so I'm Josh. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm playing Osto, who is a beast-bitten sorcerer. He is, sort of lives on the streets as an outcast in town. He is an older man with some mystical powers and some stigma against him. And he has found himself in the caves after recovering from a transformation. He is, a little bit disoriented, and he's sort of running away from the danger that he is aware of, deeper and deeper into the caves, hopefully eventually to find the treasure at the end.
All right, and my name is Sam. I am the GM for this session. I use he, him pronouns, and let us begin. So, let's start with Osto, who we left off with Osto being chased by one of these blue specters that you guys have named the Hollow Heads. They're these ghostly men and women who kind of walk these icy caves, and instead of a face, they just have a giant hole and are sucking air and wind into their face and creating this howling, shrieking noise that kind of echoes through the cave. And one of them is apparently chasing you. And you found yourself at the edge of a massive crevasse through this glacier. It's probably a 5 to 6 foot gap. If you had a running start, you might be able to jump it. But the drop is maybe 60, 70 feet straight down. So it is not something that you want to miss. What are you planning on doing?
Is there anything on the roof of the cave that I might be able to hook something onto to cross the gap, to swing across the gap?
Yeah, you could definitely it's ice.
Yeah.
So if you could probably drill something Or
Okay.
like if you I'm assuming you're talking about using the grappling hook, right?
Yes. That
So the
is
grappling hook would definitely hook into like one of the edges or cracks in the ice. So
okay.
if you launched it correctly.
Yes. So in that case, I'm going to mark some equipment. Uh, I'll take a grappling hook, and I will take some rope. Uh, and Osto is going to, tie the rope to the grappling hook, presumably already done. And he is going to, pull the rope back and swing it to build some momentum and throw it and hope that it hooks into the ice well enough to carry his body weight across at least a little bit of a gap.
Yeah. All right. Time to go to dice.
Indeed.
So I think this is a I think this is a risk roll, even though you are technically exploring further into the cave. Um, so say what you hope will happen, and the GM and the other players will tell you what could possibly go wrong.
Uh, well, I hope to safely cross the chasm.
Okay. I think what could go wrong is you launch this grappling hook and it hooks onto the other side, but the ice isn't strong enough and you actually close the passageway on the other side. John, do you have any other ideas?
This is slightly comical, but I I just got this picture in mind of you fling it and you get purchase and you swing, but then you mess up the release and you accidentally swing backwards back to the monster that's chasing you.
That is pretty funny. All right. So then you take a light dice because you're using some of your equipment. Devil's bargains. I guess one devil's bargain could be that the amount of time it takes you for this grappling to get all this stuff out of your equipment, out of your bag, this thing is gonna basically be caught up to you by this point. So it's right behind you, and you're basically running for your life at this point. John, do you have another devil's bargain you want to offer?
Yeah, I think one would be that it's just lodged in there too tight. You're not going to be able to retrieve the grappling hook from the ice that it's embedded in afterwards.
Do you want to take either of those?
I will. Let's say the first one. I think he sort of fumbles with it out of his bag and lets the creature close the distance.
Okay. And then, are you willing to risk your mind or body in order to succeed? I think swinging over this chasm.
Yeah, that does seem like a.
That does seem like a very, very dangerous, risky thing to do.
Yeah. So that is a dark die and two light dice.
2 light dice and a dark dice. Let me open up the roll for your party.
Pull these off to the side. The pips is the dark die for the sake of this.
Mm-hmm. So
not a good.
I think it's doing the thing where it won't re-roll dice. So I'm just going to clear the room and then roll all new dice.
So that's 2, and that is another.
Okay. So that's a 5 on the light dice. So the complication I think the complication is that you as you're swinging over this chasm, you happen to look down and you can see that there's treasure at the bottom. You can see something glittering at the bottom of this chasm. So you can, if you want to stop running and turn around, you could go get it, or you're just going to keep running from this thing and keep going. You can't, keep in mind, you can add another dark dice and reroll if you want to keep pushing it. Try and get that 6.
Oh, I think that I already have a rope hooked, into a secure enough thing for me to cross. So I think that I turn around, I see that I am on one side and this thing is on the other. And I think that I am willing to climb down the rope into the chasm to try and retrieve the treasure under the bottom.
Okay. You start doing this, and the other thing just walks across the air, and it doesn't care that the gap is there, and it's just walking across the gap towards you.
Yeah. Well, I am climbing down as fast as I can do like the gym class.
So you're like rappelling down this rope.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a hunt roll because you're in a solid position. You've got this rope. You've got you've got everything going, but we'll see what kind of stuff you find at the bottom. So with a hunt roll, you get 1 dice for just exploring. You get 1 dice if you're using equipment, which you are. And I think that's it. So you just get 2 light dice.
All right. 3 and a 2.
Okay. So you, on a 3, you encounter something terrible. You are making your way down this thing, and you hear the creature that's kind of coming down at you stop and scream, and it gives this howling, echoing scream. And as you're kind of rappelling down the side of this cliff, a hand reaches out of the cliff at you and grabs onto the front of your shirt.
Ooh.
And is trying to rip you off of the rope.
Yeah. How far down am I from the bottom at this point?
You're probably like 40 feet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a nice fall. It could be rope burn if you wanted to just do that.
Yeah, I think that, as safely as Osto can, he's going to, let his grip sort of loosen on the rope. hoping that he will slide down the rope and either pull away from, the thing that's grabbing him, or at least mess it up a little bit.
Okay, so you're definitely trying to run away from this thing still.
Yes.
All right. So running away is again a risk roll. What you hope to achieve is fairly obvious. You just want to get away from this thing. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, you get taken, and you die. Is what could go wrong here, really? Because you don't have unless you can really sell me on something. I don't think you have a way to fight these things. You don't have any weapons.
Yeah, definitely in a bad spot for Osto.
John, do you want to suggest an alternative failure that's not death?
Well, the thing I was thinking was that, what might go wrong is the nature of what this thing is different from what you see right now. You see an arm thinking, oh, I'll just drop away and be away from it. But I don't know, maybe it's like a disembodied arm and it's not actually attached to anything on the other side and it just flies with you, or the whole wall is actually the creature or something like that, right? Like the nature of the beast is different from what you thought, and falling to the ground doesn't necessarily mean getting away. But I think that's kind of in line with what you're talking about, Sam. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, the end condition of that is still you just get attacked by this thing. Are you particularly skilled in this, or do you have equipment that you're using? I guess the rope.
Yeah, I guess again I am still.
That is some really useful rope.
As a fail-safe, I guess.
Yeah. To keep you from just not straight up crashing into the ground. Devil's bargains. Devil's bargain is that the treasure, no matter what, the treasure at the bottom was just an illusion or a mirage, and there's nothing actually there. So this whole trip was for nothing.
Okay.
You have one, John?
I think perhaps that as you drop further down, you realize the rope does not reach to the bottom. And so while you might escape, you're now effectively stuck at the bottom, or have to look for another way out, right? Going back up the rope isn't going to be an option.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'll take stuck at the bottom.
All right. So that's 2 dice. Do you want to risk your mind or body?
Let's say no.
Okay. So that's 2 light dice.
5.
There's a 5. So that's a success with a complication. I mean, most of the complications I was thinking of just got taken up by the devil's bargain. Oh, I've got a complication. There's lots of ways out at the bottom. And as you're falling, you lose track of which way is which.
That is quite a complication.
So you are just gonna end up super lost if you do that. You can try and re-roll and get the 6.
I am going to do that. I will re-roll with the dark die.
Okay.
Ooh, even worse.
That's even worse. And the dark die is one of the highest ones, so you can't re-roll that.
Ugh. Foolish.
So, how does Osto die?
I think Osto. I think Osto lets go of the rope, and I think that the hand on his back just holds him up there. And he does not fall as he was expecting to. And the camera cuts away from Osto as he screams, dangling in midair.
Oh, that's good. So I guess, Josh, if you want to make a new character.
Yeah, I will throw something together.
Let's hop over to Benna. Benna, I want you to answer 2 questions for me. How physically are you trapped right now? And why did your companions backstab you? I will tell you that you are farther in the same cave. You are one of the earlier parties that got here before you.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask that. I think I am trapped from like a minor cave-in that has blocked a path that was set off by the party I came in with originally. And I think they backstabbed me just as a one less mouth to feed. I was hired on to help get them to the treasure, and promised a cut as my payment. And we made it this far, and I think they probably started feeling pretty confident that they could handle it from here. And well, if we can ditch her, we don't have to split it anymore.
Fair enough.
So I think they orchestrated a cave-in from, maybe we were like in a nook somewhere, or even just, to cut off the path of our further way in.
Okay. So I think what had happened is you had just gotten to the point where you turned a corner and you were looking down this long tunnel, and you could see that there was a large cavern at the end of this tunnel. You can see that it opened up, and there's big stalactites and stalagmites, these big icicles hanging from the ceiling. And as you 3 were rushing forward, one of your companions tripped you up very clearly on purpose, and then just stuck an explosive in the wall and collapsed the whole tunnel, probably intending for you to get trapped by the rubble.
Mm-hmm.
But you managed to probably scurry away. So now you are facing a blocked passageway. Do you want to go back? Do you want to try and dig your way through? How do you want to handle this?
I think there's too much collapsed rock and ice that feels like a fool's errand to try and dig through. I'm going to go searching for another path.
Okay. So you're going to head out of this cavern, try and loop your way around. Why don't you give me a hunt roll as you go back and explore the caverns?
Let's see. And so
you get 1 dice
hunt
for
rolls.
just exploring. And then you get a second dice if you're using a skill or you're using your equipment in some way.
Right, skills. And all my skills are combat focused. Could we say the athletics skill? I think it'd be useful in terms of, probably the reason we took that first path was because it was the clear and obvious one. So now I'm looking for the not clear and obvious. And so having to, maybe try and scale some walls and things, make my way over, maybe some large boulders or whatnot that, we didn't even consider before because there was an easier path. So why would we?
Yeah, and the other people weren't quite as athletic as you.
Right.
But you can just kind of vault over these big boulders and things. I love that. Yeah.
All right, so that is going to be 2 dice.
It's a 4 and a 5. So you get a hunt token, and you encounter something terrible. And I think the something terrible is you head back to you're trying to figure out where your bearings are. You make your way around, and you turn the corner, and there's a small nook off to the side that you notice, and you just kind of stick your head in, trying to figure out what's going on, or what this is. And it seems to be this very secluded little kind of sheltered area that is absolutely covered in blood. There is a small fire pit in the center. There are 2 sleeping bags. One of them has a mangled corpse still in the sleeping bag, and the other one is empty. And there seems to be enough parts for a second person, but they are just thrown everywhere in this room.
So I'm going to move in cautiously, kind of glancing about, and make my way to the mangled corpse and examine it to see if I can tell what maybe attacked it. And also see if they happen to have anything useful still on them.
Yeah, give me another hunt roll.
Let's see. I think I'm gonna pull some equipment. I just gotta find it again and see what's gonna be useful in the situation. I reach into my backpack and pull out a sponge that I can use to kind of soak up the blood that's pooled on this corpse so I can better see the wounds and investigate it.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. I don't trust you, dice. Let's clear this. Yeah, there we go. And
2d6. That's a
4
4.
and a 4.
Okay. So a couple of things. You get a hunt token. You see that he had a pack with him. The pack has been rummaged through, and it looks like most of the valuables have been taken out, but there's still 2 torches and an ice pick.
Does that go under found?
Yeah, that would go under found items.
Awesome. Excellent.
Hold on to those.
And oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And the third thing is that it's very clear that most of the wounds are bite marks, and you hear something growl behind you.
Okay. I picture myself crouched over this body, kind of rummaging through, examining it, and I hear this growl, and I don't turn my head. I just look sideways over my shoulder with my eyes, reach down to grab my sword, and then just spin and swing the sword at wherever the sound is.
All right, this sounds like combat.
Lord help me.
So this is a Gnasher that is behind you.
Okay.
And I will tell you now that one of these bodies was Thad.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. I should have looked for the knit sweater.
So combat rolls. When you attempt to defeat a monstrosity, first say how you are exposing yourself to injury attack.
Yeah, I'm hearing that sound, and I'm swinging first, asking questions later.
So this thing has basically, you don't know what this thing is or where it is, so you're going in kind of blind.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
And then roll a single light dice, and this is your weak point.
Okay. So a 1.
That's a pretty good weak point. And so now you are going to roll a single dark dice to try and defeat this thing. So let me pull up the PDF again just to read the rules. Now gather dark dice for each treasure hunter involved in the attack and roll all the dice together.
Okay. So I'll leave this one. I'm gonna drag it down and I'll add a new dice. Let's make this one a different color.
Okay.
2.
That's a 2. So you do not defeat it, but you do not trigger your weak point.
Okay.
So explain to us how you fight yourself into a stalemate with this hairless, ape-like creature with razor sharp teeth and these two kind of like big bugging black eyes.
Yeah, so I think I turn and turn with a swing at the same time, and just catch air in that moment as I'm facing the creature, and it's a bit further back, and I kind of holding the sword out and making some jabs at it and such, but it's staying just far enough away that I'm not able to connect, but I'm keeping it off just enough.
Okay, so you're like circling this thing.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, so get rid of the dark dice and then roll 2 dark dice.
Okay.
That's a 1 and a 6,
Yep.
Which does not beat its endurance, and you rolled a 1. So you take a hit, or you can mark one of your armor.
And a hit means 1 ruin, right?
Correct.
You know what? No, I'll just go ahead and use some of my armor. So I'll use the shield.
Okay. So again, you get to narrate this.
Yeah. So I think at this point now it lurches forward at me, and it's probably faster than I expect for a creature like as gangly as it is and with its size. And so before I know it, it's already on top of me, but I've got I get the shield up just in time as it's like trying to reach out and claw at my neck and bite at my arms, and I'm just holding the shield up, forcing it away.
And it's like actually biting chunks out of the shield as you've got it up. Yeah, so why don't you roll again with 3 dice now? So you're going to take the best 2 out of the 3 dice that you roll.
Okay. All right, so a 3 and a 5.
3 and a 5 is an 8, and that will beat its endurance. So how do you defeat this thing?
I redouble my efforts, manage to push forward, driving behind the shield, driving it up against the wall, and then I come up from the side and underneath, and I jab the sword up through the bottom of its chin area, up through its head.
I love it. All right. So you've defeated this thing. So if you want to, you can go into the bestiary, mark that Nars have an endurance of 8. And you get to roll 8 light dice. Sorry, 8 gold dice.
Oh, I forgot about this part. Oh, I don't need this one anymore either. 8 gold dice. Which will make blue.
So you rolled 3 6s. So what is so valuable about this Gnar that you've brought back? You've got your what do you have? You have a skinning knife.
Yeah.
Do you take the time and like carefully get the skin off of this thing?
I think so. And I think its skin is like especially tough. And so that's what makes it valuable, is a tanner somewhere. It's on almost like the quality of leather, right? Like it'll be as good, if not better. And so yeah.
Yeah, so this is going to be like really thick, tough leather.
Yeah. And let's see, do I add that to my found as well?
Yeah, so you can add that to your found, and then also add the fact that it's 3 gold.
Excellent. And I was thinking too, so Benna's got a lot of burdens because she's got gear to maintain. And I'm catching up a little late. I was thinking about maybe spending one of those tokens to find, maybe there's like one more piece of treasure in that bag.
I don't know if it came from that bag or it came from Thad.
Yeah.
So what token of Thad do you find that's actually a little bit valuable?
I think it's like the heavy knit sweater. This like really high quality wool.
All right, I like it. And so you pick it up, and like he was using it as armor, but it's way worse than your armor. But
yeah,
it's probably worth a gold to the right buyer. I love that. Josh, how do you pronounce your character's name?
Forit, I think.
Forit?
Go with.
I was thinking foray.
Mm.
If it's a little
If we're going French.
international. Yeah.
Fancy. I don't know. I feel like this is not a place with French pronunciations, you know.
Reasonable. All right, so for it.
So yes, for it, the smuggler.
So I also have 2 questions for it. First is there is a massive wood and stone and ice kind of upside down hemisphere in front of you. What do you make of it? And why do you wish Benna was here? And why do you regret locking Benna or collapsing the ceiling on Benna 5 minutes ago?
Well, I think that for it, I think that when For It collapsed the tunnel, it, sort of collapsed him in too. So he thought he was going to be stranding Benna and, keeping all the goods for himself. And I think it turns out he's just sort of accidentally screwed himself over in that traditional way. I think that Benna, I think that he can see sort of down the distance, like another adventurer or creature or something, and he knows that Benna is a far better fighter than him also. And he sort of regrets sabotaging his muscle in this way.
Okay. And the passageway that you're currently going through, this big kind of wide tunnel with these big icicles hanging from the ceiling, has this massive, it almost looks like a nest if birds made nests out of like just rocks and chunks of ice. So what do you make of it, and how are you navigating it?
I think Benna is, or For It is, going, so, I mean, when you say nest, do you mean that there is, like, adequate, like a nest has, like, straw and, like, is a very, like, rough surface. I feel like if you had a big nest, you could, get handholds, climb around.
Yeah, so imagine a bird's nest.
Okay.
That's 20 feet in diameter and made of rocks instead of sticks.
Yeah. Well, so For It is going to try to climb up the edge of the nest and glance inside, because if something good is going to be here, it's going to be in the nest.
Fair enough. All right. So why don't you roll me a hunt dice? Hunt roll. Probably 2 dice.
That is a 2 and a 1.
It's not just a 1, so I guess that's good. 2 and a 1. So you make your way up this nest, and you poke your head over the top. I'm assuming you were using like dexterity or stealth as your skill to get you that second dice. Which one of those were you using?
Let's say dexterity.
Okay. So you're like flipping and clambering, bouldering basically up the side of this thing. Okay. I like that. And so you pull yourself up onto the top of this thing, and you look down into the belly of this hollowed area. And there are a puddle of small creatures lying at the bottom. Most of them are sleeping and do not move. They seem to be breathing kind of soundly, except for one of them, of course, which has just opened its eyes and give this big yawn and blinks a couple times and looks up at you standing on top of the rim, and then gives this blood-curdling shriek as it screams and like rumbles around trying to find it something, and it pulls up this like spear. It points it at you, and that's where we're going to go to our first break. So let's come back. Top of the hour work for you guys?
Yeah.
All right. So I will see you in about 4 minutes. Josh is going to be a little bit late, so we will just go with the two of us and hopefully get you two a little bit closer together so we can get the dysfunctional backstabbing party back together.
Ooh, Fort's in for a world of pain when Benna finds them.
I'm excited for that. So, you have found this little kind of nook that seems to be at least a safe place now that you've dealt with this Gnar. Do you want to go back the way you came, try and find a way through the kind of blockade that got stuck there, or the other way takes you back kind of closer to the entrance, and you know that way leads to ghosties. So
yeah, seems like my hope of finding a side passage has not worked out, though it has been decently profitable. So yeah, I'll go back to where the rubble's at and evaluate the options there.
I think that's easy enough to do. So now you have this, you've got some equipment that might be a little bit more useful. You've got this ice pick. You've got some skills that you might be able to use. What's the plan here?
Yeah, I think Ben is gonna I'm picturing like a pretty large pile of rubble in front of her. Enough that she can climb the base of it to get a little higher and work towards the top, where maybe it kind of like comes to a point where maybe it's thinnest at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll take the pickaxe, the ice pick, and start trying to pull bits away. See if she can form a big enough hole that she can squeeze through.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think this is a hunt roll, honestly, because there's not a whole lot of immediate risk. And you are trying to get farther into the incursion, so
I meant to ask, are we in the same set? Is it still the same
so
goal?
Officially Fort has moved on to the next set.
Gotcha.
The nest thing is its own set. I should probably mention that when he gets back.
Okay.
But Benna, you were stuck in the old set.
Right.
Which is that labyrinth of tunnels, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay, so doing a hunt roll, and I think the ice pick is a piece of equipment, so that should be 2d6, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. 2 and a 5.
2 and a 5. So you get a hunt token.
All right.
I think this works. But you encounter something terrible. I think the something terrible is you manage to you manage to pull away like a big piece that was lodged in a corner, and that definitely gives you enough space to get through. But in doing so, you have moved the one thing that was holding up the rest of the ceiling. And so this whole tunnel is going to collapse behind you, and there is absolutely no way of digging through what you've left. So you are now officially trapped in that room.
Okay.
And you look over and see Forit. How does Forit react to this screaming, child-sized, what almost looks like a cross between a chimpanzee and a goblin?
Not well, if I had to guess. I think that for it, he's, sort of on the edge of the nest. And I think when the screaming starts, he panics a little bit, and he takes like one step back, and then he's at the edge of the nest, and he looks behind him and sees that he can't keep walking backwards. And I think Fort is going to pull out his knife and hope for the best.
So you're standing and facing these things?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will tell you that you guys are in a new set. The goal of this set is called The Hidden Nest. And the goal of this set is to find the treasure of those who came before you. So, you are going to stand and face this thing. There is currently one of them who is awake and cognizant enough to know what's going on, but he is screaming and standing on all the other ones. So they are slowly waking up and trying to figure out what's going on. But this one is going to rush at you. Benna can hear the shrill, blood-curdling screaming of whatever this tiny humanoid thing is. And you can definitely see Forit standing on top of this nest. What do? Are you going to jump in and join this combat, or are you going to...
I'm going to push that asshole in. No, I'm... I think as Fort is standing on the rim of this nest, and there's this screaming coming up from inside of it, Benna kind of walks up to the base below him and just yells up and says, "What trouble have you gotten yourself in now? I'm gone for 2 minutes."
Forit looks at Benna and goes, "No trouble that my good friend can't help me out with."
Good friend? I'm sorry. One of us just tried to collapse a roof on the other.
And a screaming, flailing ball of spear just lunges itself over the rim towards Forit's head in the middle of this conversation. And are you going to stand your ground and fight, or are you going to try and run from this thing?
I will fight.
Okay. So, combat. Is Benna joining in?
Benna does join in. Because if he dies, they're just going to fight her anyways.
Okay.
And Benna wants to be the one to kill him and not these things.
How is Benna helping from where she is?
That is a great question. She is going to. I don't know how much I'm allowed to offer here. I'm picturing she can't see them because they're like up in this nest thing that she's not up in, but she's got this ice pick, and is it? I think like the roof of these caves and caverns maybe have like all these icicles and stalactites on them.
Mm-hmm.
So she's gonna take that pickaxe and just hurl it up to the ceiling at the biggest one that's hanging over this nest in an attempt to break it free.
Yeah, that's fun. So, trying to think, because honestly, that sounds like a risk roll to try and accomplish something, and then succeeding at that would make the combat significantly easier for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's have the first round of combat go through where Ford is one-on-one with this screaming baby thing that has launched itself at your face. So why don't you say, how are you vulnerable in this moment?
I am dangerously close to the edge of the nest.
Okay, so you are literally backed up to an edge. I like that. And so you get to roll one light dice for your weak point.
That is a 2.
Okay. And then you get to, as the single combatant at this immediate moment, you get to roll a second dice, a dark dice.
And that is a 1.
That's a 1. So it's not your weak point, but you and this thing fight to a stalemate, essentially. So narrate that. What does that look like?
Yeah, well, so I think the thing like charges me, and for it braces himself and manages to push back a little bit on it. I think it is smaller than for it too, so
It's much smaller.
Yeah.
They're probably only maybe like 2.5 feet tall.
yeah. So it's smaller than for it, has less mass, and for it pushes back. He manages to stay his ground, but he does not, unfortunately, get any good hits in or anything.
Okay. So these things have a specific defense where they are rapidly waking up. And so every round of combat, their endurance goes up by 2.
All right.
So let's see how that icicle gambit works out. So what do you hope to accomplish here?
I hope to bring a whole big chunk of ice down on top of their heads. And if Ford gets caught in it, well,
Okay. What could go wrong here? Josh, do you have any ideas of what could go wrong here?
The commotion could wake up more than just the one creature that is, certainly going to wake up.
Oh yeah, so it could just accelerate that clock.
Yeah.
Oof. Honestly, I kind of like that because that's basically either you succeed and you cut back the clock, or you by killing a bunch of them, or you fail and the clock goes faster and you've basically screwed yourselves. So I like that all or nothing. All right, so you get a dice because you're using some of your equipment. Devil's bargains. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and offer two. One of them is gonna be no matter what, you drop some of this ice on yourself, and the second one is no matter what, you drop some of this ice on for it.
Is that really a devil's bargain? I feel like you're sweetening the pot here.
Well, stoking the flames.
Yeah.
More like it. Josh, do you want to offer anything?
I mean, there's already two on the table. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I will absolutely accept that there's some splash damage against Fallor in this.
Okay. So why don't you... are you risking your mind or body in this situation?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's
I'm picturing that she's a little far enough back away that, yeah, it's kind of like relatively safe to make this throw.
Okay.
Let's see. Do I need to roll two new ones?
Just roll two new dice. Because we need to keep that two, because that's for its weak point.
All right, 4 and a 5.
4 and a 5. So you succeed. I think the complication is going to be that this icicle falling breaks the nest. And so it's going to crack open and these things are going to come spilling out. Whichever of these things are left are going to be on ground level with you.
Mm-hmm.
So like it or not, you're going to be involved in the combat now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's perfect.
I like that. So what this is going to do is essentially put a cap on how many of these things can wake up and cap that timer. So it's not just going to go infinite and then you're never going to be able to fight this thing. So a piece of ice hit for it, correct? That was the devil's bargain that you took?
Yeah.
So, Josh, why don't you roll me another weak point?
All right.
So you've got the 1, 2 over there.
Yeah. So let's reroll that. That is 5 for my weak point.
So 2 and 5.
2 and 5 for my weak point
are now your weak points. And Benna is now in combat. So Benna, how are you leaving yourself open? And what is your new weak point?
Yeah, I'm picturing that now that the nest is broken and there's more awake, there's just, a numbers game of you can turn and face some, but then that leaves your side exposed to others. Right. And I roll 1d6 for the weak point, right?
Yep.
So mine is going to be a 4.
Okay. So we have 4, 5, and 2 on the weak point. And now there are more of these things that have woken up and are now trying to swarm around you two. Technically, we are on the second round of combat, and you have another person. So that's 3 dice. So for it, you want to roll 3 dice of a different color. Three, 5, and 6. So 5 and 6, 11 is definitely enough to beat back whatever few of these things are left. The 5 does hit your weak point. So how does For It take a hit in this situation?
I think that For It is, up close. He sort of gets into the melee, and he gets a little bit overwhelmed. A couple of the things like jump up on him while on his back, and he takes a hit.
Can I make an offer?
Yeah.
It's not one of these things that hits you. It's Benna. Like, just when you think you've finished with all of this, you get a heavy hit to the backside of you.
Yeah.
You just like clock him in the back of the head.
Yeah. Yeah, not a lethal blow or anything. Just something that's going to sting for a bit.
All right, so you have defeated these things. So do you want to name them and give them a description?
I'm not sure I ever got a good mental picture of them. So they were like in a nest.
Yeah, so there were a single one of them looks like a large baby mixed with a goblin mixed with a chimpanzee.
Okay.
They've got these kind of like small beady eyes. It doesn't look like they use their eyes very much, but they've got these big old ears that they're very clearly good at using. And they're clearly intelligent enough to use tools because they had like spears and crude axes and stuff.
Well, and it seems like they probably built this nest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that makes me tempted just to like refer to them as like nesters or something. Empty nesters.
You guys really like the verbs for naming things.
It's yeah.
It is an easy
yeah.
It's an easy, thing to do.
Naming things is hard.
Yeah.
Though I have to say Hollowhead is still so good. I don't know. I'm not coming up with anything good and creative right now. You have any ideas, Josh?
So, okay. I don't know. I feel like empty nesters is a fun name for a thing. A group of things that all wake up and crawl out of the nest.
All right, let's go with it.
All right, and technically their endurance is 6, but they will swarm you and get more. So you get to roll 8 dice because you got to that point. So if somebody wants to roll 8 dice.
Would you like to? Should I?
Go for it. I'm typing in the description.
All right.
About the empty nesters.
That is 8 dice.
And there's a 1-6 in there.
Yeah.
So, I like the idea that they all were using like these very crude, ugly pickaxes and basically sharpened rocks and sticks that they were using. But one of them had basically a spear that they tied like a gold fork to the end of it, and you have no idea where he got it, but it's this solid gold pointy piece of cutlery that's all bent, but it's still a solid chunk of gold that you can take and use.
It's like the Little Mermaid or something down
Yeah.
here.
All right.
Who do we want to say finds that? Because you can't split 1 and 2. I think 4 can take that one.
Okay. Yeah, 4 it finds the little gold, this like battered gold fork at the bottom of the nest, and he slips it in his pocket. He buffs it a little bit, sees that it is shining underneath the grime, and he drops it in his bag. Hopes no one sees.
Who is no one else?
Well,
there's only one other person here.
There is only one other person here. He specifically hopes that Benna does not see.
Yeah, so having socked for it in the back of the head, and then I feel like she has something clever to say about how the next time you think to double cross me, you might want to be sure you actually finish the job. Now get off your ass. We still got work to do.
Yeah. For it sort of crawls out of the center divot of the nest. And he goes, all right. Yeah. There's still further to go. There's still more to be found in these caves.
Mm-hmm. So you can look around here, or you guys, now that you've kind of gotten around this big nest thing, you can see that the cavern actually does go on, and there's a passageway at the far end. So,
and I'm sorry, remind me one more time the goal of this set.
The goal of this set was to find the treasure of those that came here before you.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, 1 second. My cat is about to break a glass on himself.
Okay.
Okay.
Crisis averted.
Yeah, he's the less intelligent one, so you never know with him. Well, I'm really curious. The ice pick that I threw, if I'm able to recover it, or if it's lost.
No, we didn't. We didn't give you a devil's bargain or
Okay.
anything that it got lost. So I think it fell in the rubble, and so digging around for a little bit might find you that.
I mean, I am kind of interested still in this area. If there's anything else here, maybe maybe these creatures knew something about this deeper part of this cave system and knew where to go to avoid danger or to get out or to go and find valuables, if they've got all these weapons and things. So maybe we can look for evidence of their tracks. What ways do they frequent going in and out of here?
Okay, I like that. Yeah, give me a hunt roll, and then how are you? So you get one for exploring. Do you have a skill or a piece of equipment or something like that you're going to try and use to help you with this?
I think. Let's see. What all do I have with me? Um. So what is the ground like? The ground is like rock and ice.
Well, yeah. So now there's big chunks of ice everywhere from the ice giant icicles that have fallen to the ground. But it was mostly just kind of rock with these big ice stalagmites coming up out of it.
And I'm looking for evidence of where they would have been traveling. So what would help me do that?
You could also turn to your compatriot and see if they have a skill that might be better.
Yeah. I actually think knowing for it is he's here as the dexterous smuggler type. That this is his job more so. I'm here to make sure he doesn't get eaten.
Yeah.
So yeah, for it. You got any ideas?
Yeah. I mean, for it, I think. I think Fort, knows that he is on thin ice at any rate. So I think that probably, no matter how dangerous whatever Benna, makes him do is, I think he doesn't really have a choice right now. So, uh, yeah, I mean, what could Fort do? What that could Fort do that would maybe be helpful right now, I guess.
So you're specifically trying to look for tracks or look for like evidence of what direction these things went.
Yeah. Well, Fort does actually have tracking as a skill. He is a
Okay.
X tracker. So I think that he is, gonna look around in the dust to see if there are footprints leading to anywhere.
Yeah. So why doesn't Fort give us a hunt roll with 2 dice?
Yeah. I will pop these away. That is a 4.
Okay. On a 4, you get a token and you encounter something terrible. So, you start navigating this room, kind of looking around, trying to find tracks. You do find that there are a good number of tracks that just kind of go all over the place in this room. This was like a hub of activity while these things are awake. But you don't notice what's right in front of your face as you're kind of looking down at the ground, trying to follow these tracks. And you run right into basically a massive spider web. This kind of sticky, ropey trap is basically tangled you up, and you are hanging about a foot off the ground. And you can see that there are dozens of these traps that are kind of hung between the stalagmites all throughout this room now that you're looking for them.
Yeah, I think that Fort is going to, when he realizes that he is, stuck to the web, he's going to try and pull out his knife to cut himself free.
Makes sense. Is Benna doing anything, or is Benna just going to sit there and watch him struggle?
Are the spider strands, is the web like really thick strands that look real strong, or are they thinner? Like, I'm concerned about my sword would get caught in the spider web.
So they are almost invisible.
Okay.
They're very fine, very thin threads, but there's a lot of them, and there's enough that it's strong enough to hold you up.
Then, yeah, she'll take her sword and cut on the other side.
Okay. Yeah, now that you've dealt with these creatures, it's not too difficult to deal with this. I don't think you even need a risk roll because there's not really any massive failure conditions here. So you did succeed at the tracking, so you kind of know that there are a couple of different passageways that these things go down. One of them is very common. 3 of them are less common, but happen all the time. And then there's one very large passageway in the very back that these things avoid. They are like very specifically go around it and don't go anywhere near this passageway.
Seems to me that wherever they thought was safe to travel through is a good path for us.
Yeah. For it nods and goes, well, I don't know if we even can get back at this point, so I guess once more into the breach.
After you.
Yeah, he stops and he looks back and he grimaces a little bit, but he does lead the way.
So which tunnel are you taking? So there's basically 5 tunnels in front of you. The one on the far left is the one that they go into all the time. And the one straight ahead is the one that they completely and utterly avoid.
I think the populated one, the common one.
Yeah, let's say the common one. I don't want to go into something that is, let's trust that if they are going there, then nothing will kill us there.
I mean, I'm looking at it from a food chain perspective, right? We were able to kill them. They feel like that tunnel's safe, then whatever's down that tunnel, we should be able to kill that too.
Fair point. Yeah, so let's head down the populated tunnel.
Okay. You make your way down the tunnel. It looks well worn on the ground. The stone almost seems like it's been kind of smoothed out by repeated passage through this tunnel. And you go maybe 5-10 minutes down this tunnel, a pretty significant distance, before you find a stone altar in front of you. The altar itself is worn, smooth. The top of it at one point was very clearly like hacked and chiseled away, but is now worn with use. There's a bag sitting on top of the altar, and carved into the front of the the giant block of stone is this very bad rendition of a grimacing face with its tongue out. And for it, you notice that all of the footprints stop at the altar.
Okay. Yeah, for it notices the footprints stop, and he stops. And then he, looks at Benna, and he goes, stop. I don't know if it's safe. It feels unsafe. I'm going to declare an inventory item. I am going to get myself a 10-foot pole. And in traditional 10-foot pole usage, I'm going to back 10 feet away from this altar. Or actually probably like 11 feet considering arm reach. And I am going to prod the bag with the end of the pole.
Okay. You prod the bag, and the eyes of the face light up, and a raspy, kind of high-pitched voice says, "Ishnach dashkafura," and then nothing else happens.
Yeah, I look at Benna, I go, do you have any idea what that means? Or are we still in the dark?
No, I have no idea what that means.
Well, I don't know. You were an apprentice once. You might have studied languages. I don't know what this thing is.
Then why are you poking it?
Well, there's clearly something in the bag.
I will say that you poked the bag and the bag jingles.
Is there any way I can use my lore background skill to I don't know the right nomenclature to learn something about this symbol, this face on the altar, or maybe like what its purpose is?
So I think this would be like you're trying to like interpret what it is or figure out what's going on. Yeah, so that would be that's a hunt roll, because you're trying to find out information.
Okay.
And you've got a skill, so you get 2 dice. And I like the going up and you're like studying the face, trying to figure out what it is.
So it's a 2 and a 5.
Okay, so on a 5, you get a hunt token.
All right.
And you discover something terrible. So what I think you discover is that the altar is very clearly magical. That much is pretty obvious. But despite how crude and kind of mangled the actual like sculpture is, the magic is very well done and powerful. You're not 100% sure what it does, but it didn't really do anything when you poked the bag besides talk at you and glow. but you can tell that this is a solidly constructed ritual. So whatever made this knew their stuff. So I think that's the something terrible that you find out.
I'm concerned that messing with this thing further would be a bad idea for it. I think this might have been their god, and it just gave us a warning.
For it nods and he goes, "It's a strange god, but if you really think I shouldn't, try and get what is clearly a bag of coin, what we came here for, Benna, then fine. If you think it's a bad idea, we'll leave it."
I hate walking away from good money. Do you feel like fighting a god?
Well, I don't have to fight a god. I just have to run away from a god easily enough, and hopefully, maybe the god's big, and we'll run through a tunnel, and the god won't follow us. If there is a god, which I am not sure that you know for a fact.
Okay, but I'm running in front this time.
Fine. And Ford is going to try and hook the bag with the pole, and lift it up, and then step back away from the altar rapidly, and grab.
Are you gonna like Indiana Jones try and replace it with something, or are you just pulling?
I think that whatever this yelling mouth is will probably know that it is not the bag. Even if I'm hoping that it has a small enough radius that a 10-foot pole will work. So I think it has the. I don't think Ford has a replacement bag now.
All right, so roll. Give me a hunt roll. And you've already said that you've got your 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
So that is 2 dice.
Okay. That is a 3 and a 5.
Okay. On a 5, you succeed, and you get a hunt token, but you discover something terrible. You encounter something terrible. So I think what happens, so you get the bag and you get the token. I will tell you right now that in the bag is 1 gold worth of random gold and silver coins. But as the bag falls off the altar, the voice booms out again, and it's a different thing that it says. Grishnak Faroshdonovach. And then the wind inside this tunnel starts to pick up and howl, and you find yourself getting pushed by the wind farther down the tunnel and getting almost pulled toward whatever this thing is. Do you want to try and do anything about it, or are you going to let yourself get pulled by this howling wind that goes around you?
No, I'm gonna try and resist.
So you have the bag and you have the hunt token.
Yes.
Just to make sure you recorded all that. But
yep.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm going to try to, grab onto something. If there's any furniture or like a stalactite or something.
The only furniture here is the altar.
Okay, well, I'm not going to try to grab up onto the altar. But if there are any, like rocky outcroppings that have like a handhold, I'm going to try and make it to the wall and
Okay, yeah.
the wall, basically.
And how is Benna trying to avoid this? Because you are also getting pulled by the same wind.
Yeah, I think Benna, similar tactic, but using her sword, jamming it into, some rocks and things jutting from the floor or the wall, and just using that to help push back the other way and hold herself against the wind.
Okay, I like that. So, what do you both hope will happen?
I am hoping this is a short-lived thing that we can outlast and then escape.
Okay. What could go wrong? And since both of you are going to be rolling, you guys can offer things that could go wrong for the other person.
Well, either one of us could be, pulled along by the wind down the hall.
I think that's the simple one, yeah.
The wind could catch the edge of that bag, or even Benna's bag, and cause it to spill open.
And then all of your stuff goes tumbling down the hallway. Yeah, that's good. I think the other thing that could fail is you resisting attracts even more of the attention of whatever this thing is, and it shows up. So you both said what you're using to help. You're taking advantage of a piece of equipment or the environment. Both of you are. Devil's bargains. Let's start with Benna. I like the I honestly like the your failure condition as a devil's bargain. Like, you, no matter what, this wind is gonna blow away one of your treasures. Let's make it the sweater. The wind is going to blow away the sweater. You can't have that anymore. Josh, do you have another devil's bargain you want to offer?
The wind could knock loose some of the ice. It could knock down some of the ice, maybe block off, a path.
Or separate the two of you.
Or separate the two of us again, yeah.
That's a good one. Do you want to accept either one of those?
I'll go with losing the sweater.
Okay. And then devil's bargains for it. Devil's bargain that I'm going to offer is that this thing knows you were the one that knocked the treasure off and took the treasure. So it's going to target you, essentially.
Yeah, that's good. I was thinking for its only chance of making it out is going to require grabbing hold of Benna and pulling on her.
Putting your life at the mercy of somebody that you just backstabbed.
Yeah, I will. I'll take that. I like that.
Which one?
The Benna holding on to me.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I'm picturing it's like the back of her ankle, like she's not reaching out to grab you, but you reach out and grab onto her leg, and that's the one thing you've got.
That's good. Like you're slipping, you're sliding, and you grab onto the nearest thing. So, why don't each of you give me a risk roll?
I'm gonna clear the room real quick.
Yeah, the room is getting pretty busy.
All right. I will use orange for my double
2
fives.
5s. So, the complication that I'm going to give you if you stick with this is that complications are hard. Okay. The complication I'm going to give you is that you can succeed, but there's a flash of recognition as you're hanging there listening to this voice boom in your head. You're gonna recognize something about it, and it's that you're gonna recognize that this guy who came into town and sold all that silver said some of these words. So that's the complication. If you choose to re-roll and get higher numbers, then that won't be true.
No, I'm going to keep that. There's so much to do with that, though.
Yeah. All right, so you're gonna keep that. So you succeed. What does that success look like?
So, well, should we do Fort's risk roll?
Yeah, sure. Let's
well?
do both of them, and then you can describe the success or failure together. I like that.
Should I?
Yeah. So why don't you roll two dice? Do you want to risk your mind or body off the bat?
Not immediately. That's a 3
As a
and a
3 and a 5. Complication for you. Your complication is going to be that what is your complication going to be? I think that your complication is going to be that you are going to basically strain your arm. Like you're so frantic and you're so desperate to grab onto anything you possibly can that when you do that, you like wrench your wrist, and one of your arms is basically you can't hold anything, you can't lift anything.
Yeah.
So that's the complication I'm going to give you.
Okay.
You can add a dark dice and re-roll and try and get the 6.
I'll keep the complication.
Okay. So give yourself the condition like sprained wrist, essentially.
All right. Where should I put?
So conditions are at the bottom.
I see.
All right. So both of you have succeeded. And why don't you two describe that, and then we'll go to our second break after you do that.
So this wind starts picking up and blowing down the tunnel, pushing us towards the altar. Benna jabs her sword into a corner of the where the wall meets the floor and holds steady. And then she, hears this frantic scrabbling behind her and feels a hand grab onto her back ankle. And it's just a lot of straining against this powerful wind, but then it begins to recede and die away.
Okay. And for it, what does your success look like, knowing that?
Yeah, well, I think for it is holding onto the wall. I think that the wind blows him pretty hard, and he, falls off of the wall, spraining his wrist in the process. And then Benna manages to grab onto him at the last moment, keeping him from being pulled off down by the wind.
All right. And so we see the two of you collapse to the floor as the wind slowly dies back down to manageable levels. And you are just lying, panting on the ground. And that is where we're going to end for right now. And we're going to come back in 10 minutes, 15 after. Give us enough time. I'm going to go make another cup of tea. I will see you all in a bit. Righty then. So, where to next? So you can either now go down this pathway on your own terms. Try and figure out what lies at the end of it. Or you can go back and try one of those other 5 hallways. Try and figure out where you can go. I will point out that between the two of you, you have enough tokens that you could probably spend them and meet your burdens plus some, and then make it back to town. I will tell you that you did the thing and found the treasure of those who came before you, which was the offering on this altar.
Okay, and so when you say spend our tokens and make it back to town,
so what I mean is that you can spend your tokens 1-to-1 to find bits of treasure, and then you would have to make it back to town, and then you would meet your burdens and have some additional gold.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think so. Benna will tell for it about this connection she's made regarding the words of this altar and the person in town. And that makes me think, that makes it seem really likely he interacted with this altar as well. And maybe there's more here or more beyond it that is worth our exploring. So I think I'm in favor of going that direction.
Yeah. For it is shaken up, I think. he's probably willing to cash in and run too. So
Well, we know we can't make it out
we know we
going
can't
backwards, so
make it out going backwards. So I think, only forward.
There are 4 other ways that you could try that are
Yeah.
not leading towards whatever this creepy voice is.
Yeah.
So
I think we head back to the crossroads and take another path and hope it leads up and out.
okay.
okay. So you make your way back to the main crossroads. Do you want to try one of the medium level traversed passageways, or do you want to try the one that these empty nesters, as we called them, avoid at all costs?
Well, maybe they weren't avoiding the tunnel. Maybe they were just not going down it because that's the way out of this cave, and they don't leave the cave.
Maybe. Yeah, let's try the route less traveled.
Okay. I like it. So you make your way down this path, and this is a new set. The name of this set is Liquid Ice, and the set goal is navigate the passageway without dying.
Solid plan.
Solid plan. So you start making your way down this passageway, and after a while, the floor changes from stone into ice, and you can tell that you are actually kind of going upwards, but you're going up into the belly of the glacier almost. So you could try and keep going upwards and upwards to try and get out, but for now you're in kind of the center of the glacier bits. You turn a corner and are immediately startled because there is an adventurer staring at you. He is terrified. He is not moving, and he is frozen in the wall.
Oh.
Which of you has a better sense of fashion?
Let's say for it, I think.
Okay, yeah, you're the rogue. You're trying to find a jewel. I like that you've got this kind of sense of fashion. How do you know that this person, what are they wearing that gives it away that this person came here probably 50, 60 years ago?
I think that they are wearing. Well, I think that they are wearing a very archaic coat. Like it'd be like if you came across a guy wearing a frock coat.
Okay, so they're old fashioned. They're out of style. What does this out of style coat look like actually?
It is. I think it is short. It's this short jacket. That is. When you say frozen in the wall, how so?
He's 2 feet inside the wall.
And we can see him through it because it is ice.
Yes.
I see. It's this short jacket which has these bright colored stripes on it. It is very garish to the modern eye.
Okay. I love it. So yes, you've turned this corner, and this guy is in the wall staring at you, and he looks absolutely terrified. And he also looks completely intact. Like he's like blue, like frozen blue, but he doesn't look like his body is decayed or kind of decomposed at all.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's frozen over time. This was like a quick process. Seems like. Well, I kind of like that jacket. I think I want it. And I've got fire.
Okay.
So I want to melt the ice.
You also have a picket. You guys also have a nice.
Oh,
axe.
yes. That's true, too. That's a better plan. Until I get close. I don't want to,
Yeah,
accidentally hit
melting
jacket.
away this ice would take you a very, very long time.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of like kind of hacking away at this thing, trying to get in there. So why don't you give us a hunt roll?
Okay. All right. 4 and a 5.
4 and a 5. All right. On a 5, you get a token, and you encounter something terrible.
And can I cash in multiple tokens at a time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll spend that one and another one.
To get 2 treasure.
Yeah.
So I will tell you right now that if you get to this guy, he's got 2 treasure worth of stuff on him without spending tokens.
Oh, well then that is good too.
But you do encounter something terrible. And that something terrible, I think, is going to be that as you are, you're chopping at this ice. And after about 4 or 5 inches, you break through what feels like a layer in the ice. And then liquid starts pouring out of the hole that you've made. And it looks like the liquid is just more ice. It's got the little bubbles in it. It's got the cracks in it. It looks like exactly like ice, but it is flowing out of the hole towards you.
Okay. I'm going to try and avoid touching it. Actually, I think I'm gonna try. How much of there is it?
It is flowing fairly slowly, but you don't know how much of this wall is actually made up of this liquid thing. It's just continuing to ooze out of the wall.
Right. Well, until for the time being, I think I'm gonna pull out some lead bottles, and I'm gonna try and bottle some up.
Okay, I like it. I think that this is a risk roll, honestly.
Okay.
So, what do you hope to accomplish?
I hope to bottle up some of this weird liquid ice.
Okay.
Without hurting myself.
Key point. What could go wrong? You hurt yourself. I think what goes wrong is you get too close and you touch some of this stuff. Josh, do you have another failure condition you want to offer up?
Maybe you manage to bottle it, but it is so cold that it cracks the lead container. You know, it like expands within it and ruins the container.
Yeah, and then get spills and sprays all over you. I like that. All right. You have a piece of equipment that you're using, so that's 1 dice. Devil's bargains. I think one devil's bargain would be that now that this liquid is flowing, the body is gonna float away inside of this liquid, and so either you're gonna, if you accept it, that body is gonna leave essentially, and you're not gonna get the treasure. Josh, do you want to offer a devil's bargain?
When you try to get the coat off of this corpse, it is, frozen solid. It shatters into pieces. You pull it off.
So you still get the treasure, but you don't get the coat.
You get the treasure. You do not get the coat. You dug through the ice for.
I really like that coat, though.
You don't have to take it. Roll just 1 dice.
What is it? We're doing a risk roll, right?
Yeah. So this is the one that you can keep re-rolling and adding dark dice if you want to get better results.
Okay. I'm going to decline the devil's bargains.
Okay.
And take the 1.
Take the 1.
All right. So it's a 4.
That's a 4.
It's on a 4.
You succeed, but there's a complication.
And so, I can add a dark colored die and retry, right?
Yes. So I get to tell you what the complication is first.
Right.
And then you can decide whether or not you want to accept it or not. So the complication is that you managed to bottle up like 2 of these, 2 bottles worth, but it is so incredibly cold that it literally it freezes to your hand, like sticking your tongue on a pole, and you can feel your hand starting to like frostbite as you're holding this thing.
Oh man.
So that would be a condition.
I think I'm gonna add a dark die.
Okay.
And try again. So let's see. I'll delete that one and then.
So yeah, I've had the best luck just rolling ones with pips and ones without pips.
We should have said which one's the dark die first. I guess the pip is the dark die.
Yeah.
That's the non-standard. Dang.
So that's a 2 on the dark die, which is the highest one, and it's a failure. So 2 is not higher than your current ruin, so your ruin does not go up. So that's good. But you do fail. And I think the failure in this case is going to be that you try and scoop up some of this stuff, but it like gets on your hand as you're trying to do it, and your hand like freezes solid and is completely unusable. So
dang.
You can, and more of this stuff is still pouring out of the hole. So for it, do you want to do anything about this? Are you out? Are you going to try and?
Yeah, I think Fort is gonna. He'll grab Benna and pull her away from the liquid ice. But
okay.
he is definitely not. He's definitely trying to avoid it. Seeing what it can do.
Okay. So you pull her away, and the 2 of you kind of stumble backwards down the hall as this liquid kind of slowly almost molasses like slides out of the hole and onto the floor. And as it comes down, you can see that the end of it is actually like turning upwards and flowing uphill towards you guys. What do you want to do?
So if it, I mean, it, yeah. So is there a slope? Is
Yeah, so you guys were kind of walking uphill.
Okay. In that
And
case,
so my assumption is that you guys kind of went further up.
Yeah.
And it is now following you somehow uphill.
Okay. I think that we continue uphill. Hopefully we can run faster than it can, I don't know what verb would describe the movement of water uphill. So
Benna, you're the one who wanted that treasure.
Yeah, and now I have a frozen hand. So no, I agree. We should keep moving. I was just looking at our tokens and wondering if we shouldn't just skip over, spend the 3 tokens and get out of here.
Yeah, so you can spend the 3 tokens. You can also, so it is pretty close to wrapping up point if we want to have time to do a debrief afterwards. So if you want to just spend all of them, that's 6 tokens, which will get you it'll meet the condition, and then you'll get 3 extra treasure.
Yeah.
Which will be enough to at least meet your burdens and then get 1 extra.
Yep, that's what I was going to suggest.
So you don't instantly die when you get back to town.
Yeah.
So I think how that manifests is that you guys are like running up this slope, and you hear a crash from right behind you, and a huge chunk of the wall actually like blows away as this oozing liquid ice just like flows out of the wall towards you, and you turn and run. And then as you're running, you see more of these bodies frozen in the wall. And one of them actually, like up ahead of you, you see the wall break open, and one of the bodies spills out onto the floor, and you can see that it had a bag full of something. And in your exceeding cleverness, one of you manages to scoop that bag up as you run by and rush out the top. And fairly soon you guys find yourselves back at the bone pit as you guys are running back and forth trying to figure out where you go, dodging back between the different passageways, and you find yourself at the bone pit, and the exit is just above you. So I think that is a reasonable place to call it, if you two are both okay with that.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to give epilogues of what you do when you get back to town?
So the drive, you need to hit your retire amount.
Yeah, so you need to
drive?
put 50 gold into your hoard before you meet your drive.
So Benna does not take Cyrus's place at the Earthen Council, but she is 1 step closer. I think she makes it back to town with some of this treasure, takes care of her equipment upkeep and such, but maybe makes a connection during that time and makes it 1 step closer to getting to Cyrus so she can upend him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that for it, returning to town, has to give up his potential 1 gold, or no, he still does have enough to, or is it 1 gold between us that we finish with, or is it 1 gold each that we finish with?
I think it's between us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that in order to not have Benna kill him on the way back, for it, willingly gives up the 1 piece of profit that he has, the bag of coins that he stole from the altar. And I think when he gets back into town, he has a night in a comfortable bed, and then he heads back out to find the jewel that haunts Arian's dreams, because his goal is not finished. He needs that jewel, and so he's got nothing. So
awesome, very cool. All right, so thank you both. Thank you everyone who watched. I hope you enjoyed this session of Trophy Gold. This is Playthrough Gauntlet. You can find them at gauntlet-rpg.com. Go check it out. Maybe you'll come play with us. Maybe I'll get to play with you soon. That would be a lot of fun. So